Well, I'm going to get started, guys. I'd like to start by first thanking you guys for coming and spending an hour of your time today here listening to me talk about technology in the nursery industry. So show me the money. Everybody likes that. We're going to talk about the benefits of adding technology into your business. I'm Marek. I'm the general manager and second generation owner of Magnolia Gardens Nursery. I've been in the nursery industry for my entire life. This is a picture of me and my dad in 1988. That's a company photo that we found back in the spring while cleaning out some old files. And this is me and him on the day we found that photo. Nice little recreation. So literally I've grown quite a lot in this industry and should have had him sitting on my lap for that one. But, I was asked to talk today about different technology that we've instituted at Magnolia Gardens, and stuff that I see is available there, for us here in the industry. So if you've been my neighbor at a trade show or walked by our booth at a trade show, you might have seen this little guy flying around our booth, and it's a lot of fun. Gets people to stop in and see us. That's really been the main deal that I use it for, as a little hook to get people to come and talk to me. And it works. I've gotten quite a few new customers just by having people stop in our booth to wonder why I'm buzzing this little guy around. Then I have the opportunity to talk to them about the plants that I grow. But it's fun to fly. You see real smiles on people's faces. I think today we live in a world of Facebook fakeness where everybody tries to put their best front forward. And the one thing I always see when I fly this guy is a genuine smile on everybody's face that comes across it. And if anybody has sat in the trade show booth for 8 hours a day, 3 days in a row, you also know that that can get a little tiresome. And this keeps me pretty entertained myself to get me through the day. So for the last 2 years, I've been flying this at every trade show we go to. And it's been quite fun. And has got me a little bit of attention too. But today we're here to talk about technology. And there's, lots of technology out there. But for today's purposes, we're going to be talking about technology as defined by the tools and systems we use to be more productive and make our lives easier. So I'll be talking about, just a wide range of tools really, and more specifically, the systems. I think just as important as the investments you choose to make, the equipment that you choose to add to your facility, is the system that you build around that equipment to make sure that you are employing it to its fullest effect, to make sure that you're getting all the production out of that piece of equipment or that investment that you intend to make. So the tools and systems we use to make us more productive and our lives easier is what we're talking about today. So different uses for technology. We're looking to use technology in our business to make us more productive, to make more work happen with less people. We all face the same challenges of low labor availability, and we've got to find ways in our industry to do more with the people that we have working for us. So really fast. Ice cream sandwich maker right there. Much quicker than building your own. We need better communications from technologies. So it's important that we can get the right information to the right people as quickly as possible so that we can make the most informed decisions. Nice quote here from Tony Robbins: the way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our lives. And I would contend that you could put your business right there, and that the way we communicate with ourselves and our business is going to determine the quality of how our business is run and how successful that is. So we're looking for technology that's going to help us have better communication. We're looking to reduce costs. I think if you have made investments and you don't put those right systems in place that I talked about, you're going to be paying your people to do that, to throw your money away. Every hour that our employees are clocked in is an expensive hour. And you guys know that. And I think if we don't put the right tools in place to maximize the productivity of our employees, we're going to be wasting money. So looking for ways to reduce costs with technology. And looking to ways to increase profits. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? That's what we're here for. If you guys figure out how to do it this easy, you let me know. But we're looking in the long run to increase profits. So how do we decide? How do we make these difficult decisions about where we're going to invest and how to put those dollars? It's a difficult process, but it can be followed. And you got to make the right decisions because, like, we want it all, right? We see lots of fancy, cool stuff out there on the trade show floor, and I would like to have almost all of it. But there's not enough room in my capital budget to get it all right now. So we got to get together with our teams, and we got to take a close look around our nursery, our operation, and figure out how it is that you're going to invest. Make lists of, hey, these are the needs that I see in my operation. Look for jobs that are repetitive. Look for places where you can get a quick win. But it starts with your team. I think the people around us recognize sometimes better than we do what we need. I think as owners, we get bogged, not so much bogged down, but we spend our time on the 30,000-foot view, thinking about the whole deal, thinking about where we're going to be in 5 years. And we got some employees that are on the front line of our business every day with, I would contend, some really good ideas about how we could make things better. So we just encourage when you're looking to make decisions about where to add technology or where to make investments in your business, that you start with your team and see what ideas they have. So I think opportunities are everywhere, both big and small, high tech and low tech. The hammer was a vast technological improvement over beating stuff with a rock, right? So it doesn't have to be computer chips and electronics, in my opinion, to be an advanced technology. This is a really low-tech solution that was invented at Magnolia Gardens by one of our employees. The guy who put this together, one of his primary jobs every day is to load our tables with soil. And he came to me one day and said he had an idea about how he thought he could do that better. And I asked him what he needed. He said he needed a skateboard. And I wasn't really sure what he was going to do with it, but I figured for 30 bucks, and he's got a good enough idea about how to do something better, I'm going to let him do it. So he took that skateboard, he took the trucks off and the wheels off, and put it on this nice big board. He can now move 20 flats at a time, and wheels it up the table and wheels it back. So that's a really low-tech solution, but a vast improvement over carrying the trays themselves. So I just thought that was a fun example of how you can get some pretty awesome advancements, not fancy, not expensive, and asking your employees where they think we can improve. But you got to prioritize. So like I talked about before, I want everything out there in that trade show floor, but I don't got the CapEx to get it all now. So you got to get together with your team and figure out which of the opportunities that you've identified are going to fit your situation the best now, what are going to fit your budgets the best now, and how are you going to bring those improvements online in an order that you'll be able to see some advantage from. So you got to prioritize. This is the show me your money part. So anything you're going to invest in, you've got to understand the ROI, that's return on investment. Why is it important? Well, you're going to ask yourself as an owner or as a manager, ask your owners for permission or to purchase things, big capital expenditures. You need to know how that's going to affect your bottom line and how you're going to bring that investment online and into operation in your business before you pull the trigger on it, not just because it's awesome and cool and fancy and you think it's going to do great for your business. I challenge everyone to put the pencil to paper and follow this process to understand how it is you're going to get the return on that investment. And you start by collecting and analyzing data about that project. So let's take, for example, you want to add a trimming machine into your operation. Well, I think it's important to understand how that piece of equipment is going to fit into your operation. And in order to do that, you need to do a little homework. So you first need to understand where you are today. So let's say in that trimming machine scenario, you need to have a good understanding of today, how does that work? Today I do hand trimming. How much can my guys trim in an hour? You need to understand that so you know if it makes sense to bring this trimming machine online, because if you're going to spend a big ticket item, you got to know whether or not that's going to work for you. I think next, it's smart to talk to people who already run that equipment. So you may hear from the manufacturer who is telling you everything, I mean, not that they're saying anything untrue, that this machine can produce 200 units an hour, let's say. And that's true if you have it cranked up to 10 and you have all the inputs ready right there next to it and you can feed them in right away. I would contend that it's smart to talk to somebody who owns and is operating this equipment, because they may tell you, yeah, it'll do that, but in order to do that, you really need some conveyor belts to feed the machine. And you need to have a 4-man crew running it. And that's the way we're able to get to 190 units per hour. We've never seen 200. But if we set the system up like this, we can get to 190 per hour. So I think it's important to understand and talk to people who may already be using that particular equipment so that they can tell you some of the watch-outs, some of the things to look for. You may not have considered that you also need conveyor belts with this project. And so you can add that in when you're making your analysis about everything to do with that project. So once you get all your data together, you would build yourself a chart like this. This is an example of an ROI we did for an acquisition that we were looking at, and it just for this one turned out that it wasn't a good deal for us. But in any way you would do it, you would find your key data points that you are looking to consider. So something like, I'm expecting to produce X many units per hour, and that's going to give me so many savings per unit. And as I track that out over time, I can begin to see a payoff later in the life of that equipment. You would look for things like implementation costs. For the acquisition, we were looking at income streams, different product groups that we were going to be adding. So I would urge that as you gather that data, you find yourself a well-organized way to be able to see it all in one place so you can make an informed decision about how you're going to move forward. And make an implementation plan. So that's incredibly important. As a personal experience, we have purchased equipment that we have not utilized fully. And I can contend that a big piece of that is not making the right plan before we made that purchase. So how would you do that? You would go by creating milestones. So in that scenario of us purchasing a trimming machine, we got to talk to the bank about financing. We learned that we need conveyor belts, so I need to talk to the conveyor belt manufacturer to see what the cost is going to be. It looks like we're going to need to have gravel beds in order for this thing to operate properly. What's that going to mean? Who's going to own getting the beds right? So some milestones that are going to get you, once these things are completed, we'll have a project that's ready to go. You got to assign ownership. It doesn't do you any good to make a list of things to do if someone does not own those things to do. This goes a lot of places in our business, but in order to get ultimate accountability, one person's got to own that task, and there should also be a deadline on it. So, yes, Mr. Production Manager, this is your task to acquire the conveyor belts. I expect it to be done by November 15th at the end of business. You let me know if we have any issues with that. But there needs to be ownership in order to get accountability. And then you got to track the cost and savings. So you made assumptions about that this piece of equipment is going to give me production of 190 units per hour. Based on our calculations, we're going to have a 3-year payoff period. As you put that equipment to work, you need to be tracking it to make sure that the assumptions that you made in your analysis of making that purchase are really true. Is the 4-man team that you felt like was the appropriate team to run that equipment, are they able to do it optimally? Or is it going to take another person to get it done? Or is it going to take swapping them around to get it done? You know, you got to be looking and collecting data on any of these decisions that you make to truly track the costs and truly understand how that's working for you. So let's talk about some high and some low-tech solutions that we've put in place around Magnolia. So first is robots, pretty high-tech. We've owned these guys for 2 years now. We own 4 of them. About 90% of the time, 3 of them are working. They're pretty cool. They do a job that is highly repetitive, right? Spacing plans. We have this team of 4. Our team of 4 can do the work of a 4-man team, and they're run by one, we call him our robot wrangler. And it's his job to keep those guys busy. They sometimes get confused. You got to start them over again, let them know everything's okay. And nobody lost their jobs, so we didn't have 3 layoffs the day that we brought these guys on. What we were able to do is take 3 people and put them to work doing something more valuable than spacing plants. So I think a lot of people, when they see, not in this room, because I think you guys understand the labor shortage that we face, but a lot of people out in the public think robots and they think, well, the world is ending and we're going to put everybody out of work. And I think the reality that we face is that there are just not enough people out there willing and able to do the work that we need to get done. So we've got to find ways to get more work done with the people that we've got. And so this was a instance where we were able to take some jobs that were highly repetitive and get 4 people's work done with 1 guy and put those 3 people doing something more productive. Potting machines. So that's pretty low tech. I mean, but I think pretty standard in most medium to large size operations. I don't think you'd find many operations that do not have a potting machine. But you know, you look at that picture, me being there my whole life, my first couple summers at the nursery was on the potting crew before we had a potting machine. And the way that worked was, I can remember it, 202 1-gallons fit on our 8x4 trailers. Space them all out, dump a bucket of soil on top of that pot, smooth it all out with a board, then lean over that thing and plant like this. It's not the most productive way to pot up plants. So some people smarter than me figured out how to make a little production line out of it. And so, I mean, this is not something exclusive to Magnolia or something that we do special that nobody else does, but it's an important investment to make in your business to take a job and to be able to put more output with less people. And there's a lot to be said about being able to work ergonomically right here in front of you as opposed to hunched over like this. It's not a very sustainable work all day long. You're not going to get the same output as somebody by the end of the day that you were getting from them in the morning. So I think that potting machines are a valuable addition to anyone's nursery.
Tell me about the pot drop that was dropping the screw thing.
So that is a Bowen & Lawson, let me get this back here. It's a Bowen & Lawson product. It's their pot destacker. It works on these screws, and it can go from 1, 3, or 5 gallon. It's a fickle beast. It takes some particular adjustments every time you switch from the 1 to a 3 to a 5 to get it dialed in to do what you need it to. But that's I think it was about 12 grand. That's a $12,000 investment that there was a person whose only job all day long was to take pots off of a pallet and line them up on the conveyor belt. So that guy didn't lose his job, but we're able to put him to do something more productive than dropping gallon pots on a conveyor belt. And that's, I think, what we're looking for in all of this is, how are we going to get this work done in the face of not having all the people that we need to get it done? Does that answer your...
Does it work with used pots? They don't have to be brand new.
Not as good. It'll work if they haven't been put in 12-foot tall stacks and like compressed on each other. Also, if you stack them on their sides, then they get like a little crunch in them like that, and they don't work so well. So we really run almost all new pots. So you're going to struggle with it a lot more if you want to put used pots through it for sure. You know, this is not something everybody has. We have a tissue culture lab at Van Gardens. There's definitely a lot of technology that goes on inside our lab. It's kind of an esoteric subject, so I don't want to get too deep into, you know, what we do in tissue culture, but, you know, the key to the technology we use inside the lab is locked up right here in these medias. So I think a good analogy is no different than if you're going to make a mix for propagation, there are going to be different ingredients in your prop mix than the ingredients that you might make for a media that you're going to grow trees in. So all that's happening inside the lab is we're making mixes, if you will, for the right media, playing with the hormone levels to cause the plants to do what we want them to do in the different stages of the process. I could give a whole talk about tissue culture, but that's not what we're here for today, so I'm just going to kind of braze past it. But we're also doing some pretty exciting research in the lab that I want to share a little bit. So for the history of tissue culture, which is only about 60 years old now, it's all been done like we saw before in these solid containers, you know, plants in this gel-like media. We believe the future of tissue culture is in liquid medias in larger vessels. So we got a lot of research going on now into production techniques of plants and liquid medias in large vessels. And there's some real challenges there. We've been working on it now for 3 years. We have a few crops that we are actually selling out of that, but it's still, for the most part, a research tool for us. But we really believe that that's where you're going to see. In 15 years, I don't think you're going to see jars in labs anymore. You're going to see vessels like this. Daily metrics tracking. I think this is the most valuable thing I'm going to talk about today. Who in here tracks the metrics of your employee, meaning how many units they produce an hour, how many cuts they make? I see a couple of hands. I would feel better if I saw more. So you guys who didn't raise your hands, I feel like you should pay attention to this one extra good, because when we talk about showing you the money, this is the investment that we've made in our business that had the lowest initial outlay and has had the highest returns. So daily metrics tracking, what is it? So what I'm talking about is, collecting the data that your team produces. So your frontline employees have different tasks that they complete throughout the day: pruning, spacing, weeding, planting. You know, you guys know what kind of work you're doing. We've identified the key tasks that take up 90% of the labor that our team does and are tracking that on a daily basis with our employees. We have a daily meeting. This is my morning meeting at the tissue culture lab. We got representatives from lab production, research, greenhouse production, shipping, sales, and HR right there. And every day, each of these managers has metrics that they report on that are owned by their team members. We have this meeting at 9 o'clock every morning. That gives enough time for our managers to come in, get the day going, make sure that they've collected the data that they're responsible to deliver every day, and be able to deliver that. Then we have this morning meeting. I'm going to go back. This is my first person view from the table. And you can see here, I put this TV up, and underneath the table I put a computer. I've got a little wireless mouse and keyboard there. All together installed, it was about a $3,500 investment. We paid it off in the first month, for sure. And I'll show you how we did it. So I talked about, identifying these key tasks. So I've got one for how many technicians are working, stage 2 production, stage 3 production. I've got R&D metrics from the research and development team, greenhouse production, greenhouse planting metrics, and it goes on out to about here with more things that we're tracking. This is only like a 20-minute meeting every day, guys, so I don't want you to think that we're spending the whole morning like bogged down in numbers. It takes us about 20 minutes to go around the table. All the managers report on the metrics that they're reporting on. We talk about roadblocks that are in our way for the day. We talk about labor sharing and utilization. This is the system that I was talking about that we're using to run our business. And like I said, I think this is incredibly valuable. So you can see here, in stage 2, this is our goal for the week. We need to make 2,508 jars. It's a pretty light week for stage 2. It's how many jars they produce on a day, how many labor hours were used to produce that jar. We were producing 12 jars per hour. I got a goal of 18. That's a problem. But my managers are trained now that if there's something way below or way above, really anything outside what we're looking for, that's something to investigate, right? So, report from the lab today or this week was, I mean, if you guys notice, we make a lot of nandinas. That makes the bulk of our production. Most of our units or our targets are set around the metrics that we make when we produce nandinas. This week we were producing agapanthus and agave. They're way slower to cut. So when the lab production manager came in and said, hey, I made 743 jars, 61 hours, I only made 12 per hour, she saw my eyebrows raise, or really anticipated my eyebrow raising, and knew right away, hey, just by the way, Neil, I know that that's way below what we're expecting, so you know that we were working on agapanthus and agave that day. It's below our metric. That's the reason why we're turning in numbers like this. In the same way, if she told me that she produced 26 jars an hour, my eyebrow would raise equally, but maybe I'd be a little more excited about it. And I would also want to investigate what's going on there, right? So I want to know what the problem is if we're off target, up or down, right? Off target, I want to know what's going on, what's causing us to be slower than what we're expected, what roadblocks are in your way that I can help you remove to get you back up to where you're expected. On the other side, what's going on to give us 24 units an hour? And what can we do to repeat that every day? Was that a one-day fluke? Or is there something that we can learn more by digging into that a little more? So, results, good or bad, there's something to be learned. This is our stage 3, similar thing you're going to see here, right? So we have a target for the week. We have how many units we produced every day in plants, how many technicians we had working, how many hours we used to do that, and what our metric was. And this is all, I mean, this is real data. I pulled this from last week. And so again, same thing. What's going on here? How come we have a goal of 180, but we're producing 122? Well, same answer there. We're working on these agapanthus and these agave. They're pretty slow. I understand that. But we know, right? We understand what's going on. We have awareness of what's happening and why it's happening. And is there something we can do as managers to help remedy that situation? This one's in greenhouse planting. So similar deal. You know, they all look pretty much the same, guys, but I think what's important to see here that I want to try to convey is that if you can track each of those key tasks and you can make your employees, first of all, you make your managers aware that their job is dependent on their team being productive and delivering the metric that you're expecting. And then you can't expect your frontline people to give you, 20 plants an hour without at least knowing that that's what's expected of them. So when we started this whole deal, we came up with what our metrics should be, what we thought they would be. They started in one place. We began to track the progress and then began to challenge the team of, hey, we set a goal of 7.5. You guys are only producing 6. What's it going to take to get to 7.5? Oh, I think if we front-loaded all of the flats and had them there ready for us in the morning when we got there, we could save an hour from people getting ready and we could get started to work right away. So that's just an example of where the team, if you simply ask them for their opinion, they may have a lot of hidden gems they're hiding for you. And this is a grading metric, similar deal. So all those key pieces what you're expected to do for the day, for the week. How does that roll up to our month end? You know, what's our month end goal? What do we need to do every week to make sure that we're going to hit our month end goal, and what needs to happen every day to make sure we hit our weekly goal? So this one's real valuable, I think, and a lot of numbers here, but some smart labor planning. So this we put on a little later. We started this about 2 months ago. We could have started it sooner, but that's just when it happened. But kind of hard to read here, but we identified those same key jobs. So I got planting, non-TC production, grading, box building, shipping, spraying, watering, plant moves, housekeeping, soil prep, and trimming. Those are like the 10 key tasks that are done every day in our operation. That makes up about 90% of our labor usage. And we have metrics for each of those key tasks. You know, I know that I'm going to be potting about 10 flats per hour all the way down. So based on our weekly work demand, we know how much I'm going to be, in my operation, we have the luxury of I pre-sell everything, you know, so everything is sold in advance. So I know 2 weeks from now how much I'm going to ship in 2 weeks. And that's a luxury I realize not everybody has. But you can use historical data for that same thing to know that in week 42, in the last 3 years, my week 42, I had X amount of dollars of sales. I could expect a similar deal and can use that to do your labor planning. So based on all those metrics, we figure out, you know, this is all the work that I need to do for this week. This is the metrics it's going to take me to do that work. And in my budget, how many hours do I have? So we're budgeted for 360 hours. This is an incredibly rare occasion. Doesn't hardly ever happen that I only needed 284 hours of work, but I had 360 in my budget. Promise you it doesn't happen very often. But how do we, that provided a good opportunity for us too. Okay, team leaders, managers, we got 80 more hours of work that's available to do. We keep a little side list of, and we got some weeds on the back fence, that needs to get cleaned up. We haven't sprayed the field in a while. We could pick up some trash. We could pull some weeds, right? So I think this gives us a real opportunity to understand what our true work demand is in the week and then find a way to maximize that. Because I guarantee you, and you guys know it, if we didn't say that it's only going to take us 284 hours to do this work, it would take 360. That's how much that they would use to get it done, right? So you can take the opportunity to understand the true work demand that's facing your crew with just some simple data collection and measurement, and figure out how you can maximize the production of your team by making sure that they know what's expected of them and that they know that you know that what they're supposed to be doing every day. And it keeps everybody lined up. And we've been able to say too, because most weeks it's, okay, I've got 440 hours of work on my 360 budget. So then we get into some prioritizing, right? So, hey, it ain't all going to get done this week. So what's got to get done? Where do we need to share labor at between departments to make sure that, hey, there's not a lot going on in the planting this week, but it's a huge shipping week. We got to share labor from planting over to shipping to get the work done. And hey, we were going to trim, we were going to cut back these plants. We had it in the plan, but I don't got hours for that. That's going to move to next week. So, we talk about return on investment. We talk about showing you the money. If you guys take anything away from this, this is a pretty cheap way to get your team accountable and be understanding the work that your team can accomplish and make sure that you're driving your team to get the work done that you need to get done. And incredible results, guys, and this is pretty crazy. I had to do the math again. So this is 6 weeks in 2016 from week 32 to week 38, and the same 6-week period in 2017. The only real huge difference is that we've been tracking this data now. We started this in week 22 of 2016, so they were only 10 weeks into it when this data started. We're now, we've now been doing it for about 1.5 years now. So I was on average, my planting team was producing 8.1 flats per hour. In the 6 weeks, same period, we produced almost 11 flats an hour. That's a 30% increase. You can't find that anywhere, guys. A 30% increase in improvement, like in productivity, that's a hard thing to find. But we were able to find it by setting the expectation, letting the employees know what's expected of them, and then let them know that we're watching them. And that level of accountability rose, and the team has risen to the challenge. And if you look real close, we started with the goal of 7 3/4 flats per hour. We were kind of making it some weeks, kind of not, doing a little better. Well, we did our budgeting for 2017 and said, well, that's not our goal. We're doing better than that. I want everybody to do better in 17 than they did in 16. Let's push it a little bit. We're going to set our goal at 8.5. If you look at the date at the beginning of the year, we were finishing right about this 8. I mean, if you finish 16, we finished about 8 flats an hour. Put a stretch goal in there of, hey, let's get to 8.5, you know? And you can see the team now is producing almost 11. And that's done by, yeah. Was that a question or was that
coughing. No.
Sorry, oh, bless you, Dan.
I got a question.
Yeah, sure.
What platform are you using to track this and how?
Yeah, this is, I built it all in Numbers, which is an Apple's version of Excel. You can do the same thing in Excel. I'm just an Apple guy, except for their phones. And a little prettier. You can make the charts a little easier. And yeah, so that's what I'm using in Numbers.
With the increase in quantity,
Yeah.
and did you see any difference in quality control?
We have, the short answer is no. I mean, in the same way that we have expectations around the units to be produced per hour, we've got quality standards that are known and strictly enforced. And we enforce them by, letting the team know what's expected of them. And if they don't meet the expectation, they're the ones to fix it. And I promise you, if you redo work tomorrow that you did today a couple of times, you're going to pretty quickly realize that it's much better to do it right the first time, because Neil's going to make me do it again. So, so we have those quality standards in place, and everybody knows what's expected of them, and they're going to perform to those quality standards, or they're not going to be there anymore. And I mean, and I know we're facing this labor shortage, and you know, some people have the thought that anybody's better than nobody, but I promise you it ain't. And that a good employee is better than 2 bad employees. And 1 bad employee will turn a mediocre employee into a bad employee if you don't get rid of the bad employee. Because the mediocre employee is going to realize, well, if I can be just a hair better than that sorry guy, then my job's safe, right? So, yeah, I think if you make your employees aware of what's expected of them, they'll deliver to the expectation. So I know it's lunchtime, we're after lunch, trying to keep everybody excited. So we'll get to the exciting portion, drones. So you guys saw, I fly FPV, that's first person view, so I'm pretty much a fighter pilot. And I kind of feel that way. So, you know, first person view, it's wearing these goggles, you're flying a drone, where it's beaming the picture back to our little baby guy. There's a little small camera here, a little antenna. It's transmitting the video from the antenna back down to the goggles, and you're able to see what the drone's seeing as if you're flying in it. My passion of drones is drone racing. I race every weekend. It's a lot of fun. You guys might have seen it on ESPN. I figured just to wake us up, I would drop a little video in here. I get asked a lot of questions about drone racing. How fast do they go? How high will it go? How much does it cost? Do you ever hit each other? And to the last one, the answer is yes. And let's watch this little video to see. So when I made this, I made a little slow motion every time that I saw the guy that I'm racing. So there's 6 of us starting, and we'll just watch this play. So peeking in right there.
And that's slow motion.
Yeah, the slow, you can see the slow. So this is full speed, slow motion.
get dizzy?
Yeah, if you have motion sickness, I'm sorry. Ooh. Yeah, that was it. So, exciting stuff, guys. If that doesn't get your adrenaline going, I don't know what can. But I hope that woke everybody up and get you back here with me for the rest of the show. So technology that we can use in the nursery with drones. You know, if I was to recommend a package for a nursery owner, this is a DJI product called the DJI Mavic. It fits all in this nice little package, and you can ride around with it in your truck. It folds out nice and neat and is like ready to roll. So this guy that you're seeing, all the video that you're seeing here, I shot with this guy right here. It's about a $1,200 investment. Damn near flies itself. I could teach anybody how to fly it in like half an hour. But where I think a real valuable thing is in structure inspection. So down in Houston, where I'm from, it's hot. So all of our greenhouse roofs have really, really high bows. So we used to, as a practice, you got to inspect those bows, right? We had to send twice a year. It was our practice. Send people up a ladder, run down the bow, inspect all the poly, make sure there's no tears, because when a strong wind comes, it'll rip the whole thing off. So we had 2 years ago a guy fall off a ladder, break his leg. That was unfortunate. That was expensive. So we now started using it to make these inspections. I can, in about 45 minutes, slowly fly the whole nursery, then give this video to my maintenance manager, tell him to take a look. You can see every rivet, every connection, and I estimate that this has saved us probably 250 trips up a ladder. And, you know, I don't know how many trips it's going to take till the next guy falls, but I don't want the next guy to fall. So it's a pretty innovative way, I feel like now. If I find the issue in this bay, I got to have a guy climb a ladder one time. And that really is going to diminish the opportunities that we have for that same catastrophe, that same accident. So, structure inspections, I think, is a really usable tool. I think also you can use FLIR cameras. This is at a house, and this is a heat-sensitive camera. Not so much for us down in Houston, but I know there's a lot of you guys from further north that spend a lot of money on propane to heat your houses. And you can shoot your houses. You could take a FLIR sensor and fly it over your houses and find areas where you have heat escaping. That's money just floating out of your houses. So I think that's a real valuable, especially for the people further north, to use for drones. And marketing. So I talked a bit about, you guys saw my Tiny Whoop deal, the baby drone around the trade show. This is a video, and this is just some cuts from a video that I have looping in our trade show booth. The video that I loop is about 9 minutes long. It's about 4 minutes of drone video and 5 minutes of pictures. It kind of switches back and forth from pictures to drone video. I've spent a lot of hours sitting at that booth and watching people walk down the aisle past us. And when the pictures are flashing, people keep on going. When this stuff is playing, people stop. And that's pretty valuable. I mean, that's what you're looking for when you spend money to go to a trade show, right? The opportunity to talk to your potential customers. And if you can find something that gets people to stop at your booth and give you a minute of your time, you got a minute to give them your elevator sales pitch that you would have not had otherwise. So I think that marketing and finding interesting ways to show your facility, to attract people to come take a look at you, come talk to you, that's a real valuable way to use drones in our industry. And if you're the guy that's flying them, it's pretty fun too. So what's next on the horizon? And there's going to be a lot more talks about this. I'm not the expert in this yet, guys. I'm just a user looking to figure out what's the best way I can use it. And there's exciting work right now going on crop monitoring. Dr. Robbins and his team are going to give a good talk tomorrow, a whole workshop on the uses of these guys. I'll get way more into detail in this, but there's a real opportunity in the future to use special sensors to run over your crops to show you problems. You know, it's like a virtual scout, really. They're going to go out there and they're going to find a problem. It may not tell you exactly what's wrong, but it's going to give you a place to look in on and look closer to send your team to investigate. Inventory control too, both with media producers being able to use sensors to understand the amount of soil that's in a pile, or for you guys, how much soil is left after the end of a production run. Or more interestingly, your soil provider said that he shipped you 22 yards of material, but how the hell do you measure that? You just got to trust them. So it's an interesting way to be able to verify what you're getting is what they say you're getting. And container and field production for inventory control. I mean, all this is down to software. It's still in the research phase, still optimizing it for use, but I do believe that we're all going to be flying drones around our place to count our plants soon enough. And a little plug for these guys to talk tomorrow. So if you're here tomorrow, I would recommend checking out that workshop. Who's got questions, guys? What do you want to know? Yes, sir.
Your robots, 2
Yes, sir.
years now, they improving? Do you see the technology getting better and better? You going to further invest in that?
They are, I think that we might. They are getting better at supporting us. So in the beginning we had more downtime than we have now. But still, we're on that, 3 of them working 90% of the time. So I think as new models come out, they'll be more and more reliable, more sophisticated. But if you're in a situation where you don't have enough people to get your work done, then it's a worthwhile investment to get work done that can be done by a robot, that your people can do something better. So we're not getting what we thought we were going to get out of those guys, but it's still a worthwhile investment in our eyes because we got our one robot wrangler moving the plants of 4 guys. So I think it could be better. I think it will get better, but I still think it's a viable option for now.
What kind of surface are you running on that robot?
What's that?
What kind of surface are you running with the robots?
So we have not shade cloth, but you know, dirt with weed barrier over the top of it. Yeah, that and concrete for those guys are the best options for them. I know that they were working on running on gravel, but they, at the time that we made the purchase, they had issues with running on gravel because they use the revolutions of their wheels, how many times their wheels have turned to know where they are in space. So if you're on gravel and your wheels are slipping, then you're not moving as far as you thought you were moving with every wheel rotation. So that's where they struggle in gravel is slipping. Yes, ma'am.
That fourth one that's not working all the time, what's wrong with it?
Oh, I mean, it's one of the 4 all the time. So like, they have little sensors. They have a little roller that wears out in the front. I mean, it's electronics, right? So something is always going to go wrong with it. They do a good job of getting them back up, but for one reason or another, there's something going on with one of them. Sometimes, often, yes.
Do you do your labor tracking on an individual basis, or is it just as like a team?
To the individual.
Okay.
And we do that because we use it in evaluations. So when we look at it as a group, we look at the team's performance, but it's tracked individually and then rolled up to a team because we use that in evaluation. So we do like a yearly evaluation of our employees and let them know where they are. We also use that in considerations for raises, and they know that. So we let them know, hey, this is your metric, this is the expectation. We're tracking you individually, so I know when you're below and I know when you're above. And that's going to help us make decisions on what your pay rate might be for the next year, or whether or not you're going to be here with us for the next year also.
And how do you, is it like do they scan it? Are they keeping track of that?
It's all on paper. I mean, so it's not very fancy. It's so each of the individual members keeps track of their own. It's turned into the supervisor, and then the supervisor, it's their job to validate it and make sure that that the data they're getting is real. And where we really look at that is around hey, we said that we produce 350 flats per the day. I got 6 employees planting, that's 55 flats a piece. If somebody, that should all roll up to 360 or whatever, you got a problem, and so yeah, it's just all tracked by hand. So not fancy, right? I mean, that's part of that low-tech solution. Doesn't have to be super fancy to get a return. Yes, sir.
This is just more like a comment on the metrics. We're using an internship program in our company. I think that's very useful for everybody. We just hired a student from San Jose State University helping us on metrics, doing the standards, and from ag engineering background. It's nothing related to horticulture, but these guys are experts on continuous improvement and standards. So that's another tool that you guys can look into, and it's cheap. They're always students looking for that kind of opportunity, getting exposed to the industry, and I think that's also that we can look into that as well.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, so you're talking about the value of an internship program. This summer was the second year of an internship program that we started at Magnolia Gardens. Last summer we brought in 3 college students. We hired 2 of them because they were bright young minds and they were interested in the industry. I mean, this year we brought in 4 students. We think we're probably going to hire 1 of them. The beauty of it is that and it's a paid internship. I mean, we're not taking advantage of anybody, but those students need the experience to understand what it is, if what they think they want to do for the rest of their life is really what they want to do for the rest of their life. And it gives you an opportunity as an employer to test drive a smart young mind, right? You get them for 2 months, put them to work, challenge them. See if they can meet your challenge. See if you could get surprised. We've been surprised by all of them, but for sure by 1. We got a really valuable employee from a young lady who came on board from the first year who has done a lot of really valuable work for us around production planning and business information, business analytics. That's been incredibly valuable, where you may pay somebody a lot to get the value that you're getting out of one of those students because they're looking to make an impact in your business. So yeah, that's a great idea, the internships. What else, guys? Well, I want to thank y'all. Yeah.
What was that, the drone head?
Yes, DJI. The name of the company is DJI, and the model is Mavic, M-A-V-I-K. And you can come take a look at it when we're done if you like. Well, thank you guys very much. I very much appreciate y'all coming in and spending this hour with me today. I hope you learned something. And one last, if you guys feel like anything I've said is of value, or you think there's something I can help you out with to put to work in your business that you heard me say today, here's my email address. I'd love to talk to you about if you think I can help you out too. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.